Hello. It's so good to be here, Mr. President, members of your ministry, your cabinet, to my colleagues from the United States government. And I've been wanting to say this all week, all protocols considered. I love that. I'm bringing that back with me to D.C. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me, and to AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce, for putting together this wonderful, wonderful event this week, and for bringing together so many leaders from around the world. As the ambassador said, Mr. President, I'm leading a trade mission of U.S. businesses as well as a team of U.S. government colleagues from several departments and agencies. I want to recognize these women who have joined me because, as the ambassador said to you earlier, this is a very important delegation from our country, and I hope that it symbolizes to you what it symbolizes to me and I think to the ambassador. I want to recognize Ms. Rita Jo Lewis, who serves as the president and chair of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Also, I want to recognize Director Ano Ebong of the United States Trade and Development Agency. And from my fellow department, the Department of Commerce, I want to recognize the International Trade Administration's Deputy Assistant Secretary, Camille Richardson. And then last but not least, I want to recognize our Regional Senior Commercial Officer, Ms. Cynthia Griffin. We've got other great officials who are here as well, sir, and so I thank them as well. Like my home in Maryland, I am surrounded by a wife and two daughters, and so this trip was very reminiscent of home, where I've got these powerful African-American women telling me where to be, and I understood who to listen to. I also want to thank our ambassador, our U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Ms. Meg Whitman, for her tireless leadership in advancing the U.S.-Kenya relationship. Looking around this room and in meetings with some of you in attendance, I can sense the momentum she has created. Finally, I'd like to thank you, sir, Mr. President, and for sharing the stage with me today and for allowing us to be here, and your commitment for deepening the relationship between our two countries. Your ministry officials and the people of Kenya have been wonderful hosts to me and our team over the past 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of the U.S.-Kenya relationship and the U.S.-Africa relationship is bright. There is so much I could say about my trip. As an African American, and people told me I would get emotional, coming to the continent for the first time has personally transformed me, Mr. President. As a government official, I've learned a great deal about Africa's vital place in the world and about the close relationship between the U.S., Kenya, and the countries across Africa. But today I want to focus on two themes. And I promise you, when I wrote this speech in America, I had two questions. Why Africa? But the ambassador spoke first. She got me. So I'm going to change it a little bit. I want to focus on two things, Mr. President. A focus on the people of Africa and your young, dynamic, growing population, which make it the ideal center for growth. And second, I want to focus on why it's essential that we continue to strengthen our ties between our two great nations. These themes go hand in hand, and in order to achieve our potential as partners, we must position our eager entrepreneurs as the driving force of our mission. That includes our leading companies in major industries, which many of them are represented here, but it also includes our small businesses that are breaking ground, and it also includes our women businesses, our next generation businesses, and our diaspora businesses. Earlier this week, I met with the Kayana Cooperative, an organization dedicated to empowering Kenya's women entrepreneurs. I sat down with their leadership and some of the women who have businesses and built their businesses as a result. One thing that struck me, sir, is when I spoke to these entrepreneurs, it was the extent of Africa's economic future, especially here in Nairobi. While global companies, like many of the men and women who sponsored this wonderful event, are gathered here on the continent, and increasing their investment. The reality is that a lot of this growth has to be homegrown. And that's a good thing. It's good for the world. Young Africans are building companies that will not only spur growth and jobs on the continent, but will also be a source of technological process and innovation in America, in Europe, in Asia, and beyond. As my nation's first Undersecretary of Minority Business Development, I work every day with business owners of color, with many diaspora-owned businesses and many businesses owned by black women. I see the same drive that I saw here, the drive to succeed, the desire to contribute to something bigger, to the community, to our counties, to our states, to our nations. And I see that here in Kenya. They just want a shot, Mr. President. They just want a chance. They just want some equity. They want an opportunity to create something that strengthens their country and uplifts their community. It is essential that the government of Kenya and those of other African countries continue to support the ecosystem of young entrepreneurs to help unlock and spur Africa's economic potential. The second point I'll make here today is that the U.S. stands firmly with you and with the citizens of Kenya in this endeavor. While Africa is poised for a new economic era, one that will reverberate in the U.S. as well as globally, we know that making the most of this opportunity is not always easy, sir. It's a daunting task. President Biden and the U.S. government are committed to deepening our ties between the U.S., Kenya, and Africa, to strengthening the links between our companies and our markets, and to offering the economic support needed to seize this opportunity. I'm pleased to report that last year, the United States became the largest market for Kenyan goods. Across Africa, the United States is by far the most significant provider of venture capital investment. In 2021, across the more than $5 billion in venture funding raised by African startups, nearly 70% of the investments were from American firms. We know we can do more. We commit to do more. And as we talked to you in December at the U.S.-Africa Business Forum and at the African Leaders Summit last December, that was an important launching point. To sustain the momentum, though, sir, we're going to keep working hard, and we need effort on both sides. Vice President Harris is here on the continent this week. Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen made a recent visit as well. And now our trip, me with these powerful African-American women. It all underscores, Mr. President, our government's commitment to supporting these ties. We are committed to helping Africa get through some of these pressing challenges. We know we have to work together. So what is clear to me after my time so far in Kenya is that Africa's prosperity is only growing, that its young people are hungry to take advantage of it, and that in many cases they are already doing so. What I hope is clear to all of you here, whether you are from a global NGO, an American company, or the African government, is that we see the opportunity here in Africa, and we are committed to working with all of you to make the most of it. Asante sana. God bless you all.